sitting at a place called Asbury Seminary and talking about church planting, it's a bit like being at Moody and talking about evangelism. And you have to have that connection. I mean, that's what Francis Asbury was known for, and for first of all, just personally, I mean, to the place. And actually, this was all circuit riders. I mean, their lifespan was greatly reduced because of the polity that the Methodists had, in some way inherited from the Anglicans. Unlike the Baptists, who were sort of their friendly competition in that day, the Baptists could ordain a houseplant because of their local church ordination, but they could ordain a preacher boy, and that's what they did. Baptist farmer preacher William Warren Sweet the historian William Warren Sweet referred to them as. Where the Methodists, because of their view of the ordinances and the view of their polity, the way they structured church, they needed a credentialed minister. And so they would have class leaders. And again, the genius of these things Francis Asbury and others, is the class leaders were basically pastors of the churches overseen by a circuit rider who's functioning a bit more like a bishop than maybe we were all comfortable with admitting. But the end of the day here's what they did. They looked to give people permission. And the permission was, man, if you're a class leader and you start a church, and that's what it was. They called it a class. It was a church. It was a church in Wilmore, Kentucky that started as a class. It was a church in Severance Valley that started as a class. You said, you do that, we'll find a way to give the covering that you need in our polity. And because they wanted to get it done. And I think that impulse that we saw in Francis Asbury and others it's often missing in much of established Christianity. This we're going to get it done, and we're going to find means to get it done. Now we find means to say, well, you can't really do it that way. Well, they said, well, it's not usual, but we can make this happen. Second, it's going to take personal sacrifice. Francis Asbury knew you can't lead what you won't live. And so, it's really easy to sit back and to say, we should be planting more churches. Well, I hope that that's going to be accompanied by people, students at Asbury getting involved, faculty at Asbury getting involved, leadership. Because again, you can't get up and say, you should do it, but I'm not really engaged and involved. I'm very comfortable where I am. And it's comfortable out there. And I think that's one of the things that Francis Asbury modeled for us. He could have had a comfortable existence of an ecclesiastical leader. Instead, he chose to hear the words of Jesus, who said, as the Father has sent me, so send I you. And he chose to live sent. And I think that's one of the gifts that he has given us, and by his namesake has given this school. This school is known for its deep commitment to spiritual formation. I love that. Missions endeavors as well, and I love that. I did part of my PhD work here in missiology and studying anthropology at Asbury Seminary. What I would say is my hope is that if we could take that deep spiritual commitment and that heart for global missions and take a spiritually driven mission passion to plant churches here as well, I think the impact could be really just significant. Because we already get global missions, and we want more of that, not less. We don't want to say, hey, don't go to Botswana, go to Boston. We don't want that. We want more global missionaries, but what we also want is that impulse, that sending impulse that we saw in Asbury and others, that sending impulse to be combined with the deep spirituality to see churches planted across North America, ultimately across the world.